Okay. Director Miller, will you lead us in the pledge?
Certainly. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty
And justice for all. Thank you, Director Miller. At this time, I'd like to ask if I see there's no member of the public present, but do any of the directors care to make any announcements or communications at this time?
Yeah, I have one thing to mention.
Okay, Director Sabo.
I just read yesterday, maybe you saw it too, Mike. They're putting in a new system in San Francisco, which is a satellite-based approach and navigation and approach system, which will allow multiple approaches to both runways at the same time. These are precision approaches where you have guidance and all that, so it should cure that problem up there at San Francisco, where when it's IFR, they have to go down to one runway operation, and that should improve our help our travelers out of here. I'd like to connect to San Francisco.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's a great addition. I know they're going to struggle for the summer, or at least part of the summer. They're doing a major reconstruction of an intersection, a main intersection on the airport.
Yeah.
So it'll be a little slow this summer, but once they get that done, I think they're done with the airfield for a while.
Well, they got it up and running at 2 airfields in the United States so far, and they're using it extensively in Europe, so it works. And I started to think, when I tourist a little bit, that's a great solution for this place.
Sure.
I'm done.
I have a announcement to make, but not an announcement, just a comment. I had two friends that were on the inaugural outbound flight to Portland, and one relative that was on the inaugural inbound flight from Portland. And both of them spoke very, very highly of the flight. They had heard Allegiant stories, and apparently but they said it was a great flight, very smooth. The plane was comfortable, and both of them spoke highly of it. So
Great.
That'd be great. This is going to be for how long? We schedule to have that.
Right now it ends at the end of August, but if we perform well, I'm hopeful that they'll continue forward. So,
Yeah, both of them comment, not a lot of people on the aircraft. So
and 78 on the inbound side,
yeah.
and 93 on the outbound side. And
How many does that hold? And
135, 136, somewhere in that area.
Yeah, my relative who came in didn't comment on it. The other person said the flight didn't look that in their estimation, but it sounds like 90% out of 130.
Not bad.
That's about 65%.
Oh, you have to run the math, but you're not far off. Yeah. Yeah, my son, daughter-in-law, and grandson were on that inaugural country too. So, hopefully we do well.
Are they using the same Airbus airplane used in Las Vegas?
Yeah, exactly. Matter of fact, it's kind of a round robin. The airplane will come in from Portland, go to Las Vegas, come back the next day the opposite way, or on Monday the opposite way.
Chair Kersey, I have one thing. Tomorrow morning at 8:30 at the Monterey Conference Center is the military contributions, economic contributions to the Monterey County economy. And I saw that Director Sabo was on the sign up list. I didn't see anybody else. So you can still go online and enroll. If you need the link, I can send it to Amanda and she can send it out. But we will go over the report in depth. And then there'll be comments from Congressman Panetta on the importance of the Department of Defense assets in our county. So It's 8:30 to 10, will be done promptly at 10. I would encourage you to attend if you could. And both the secretary and Mrs. Panetta, I see are on the list, so they're coming. He has said repeatedly, this is the most important part of our
Director,
journey. Yes,
yeah, Director Liffle, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to attend. That's our government affairs meeting, monthly government affairs meeting, first Thursday of every month. And we've never had a conflict before because I always attend that. I don't know how we got crossed up this time, but we're going to have to be a little more careful because I certainly wanted to be there, and I'm afraid we're going to probably lose a fairly large portion of our GAC group that will probably be there as well. So anyway, we'll try to do better in not having that conflict again.
yeah, I didn't see, I don't see, except for Janine, I don't see anybody from hospitality on the list, which is kind of a shame when you think of how many conferences and things they have that help support hospitality. So I'll be there.
Yeah, no, it's, I don't think I've ever missed one in the past.
Yeah, and we had to go with Congressman Panetta's schedule. That's what drove our schedule.
And this is virtual or?
You can also do it virtual. In person. or
Okay,
virtual.
are we ready to move?
Gary, I think we are limited by how many people can be in person because of COVID. So if people want to go, they probably need to get on there and get signed up right now.
Although we just entered the yellow tier this morning, which is fantastic news, and it also increases the capacity of the conference center.
It does, but there's something going on in the room, in the other half of the Sarah Ballroom. And so we can't just expand out. We're also confined by the fact that they got something else booked in there.
Gotcha. Okay, are we ready to move to the agenda? If so, Executive Director, who's going to drive the train on this one? Will it be Mr. Burkholz?
It will. We're going to introduce the budget. It's been introduced to Finance Committee, first cut, and there are some small changes since it's been there. This is the requested full board workshop. The budget itself will come back to Finance Committee for one quick look at the next meeting, and then to the board, full board, for adoption at the June board meeting. That keeps us in compliance with the with our requirements to have a budget by the end of our fiscal year, which is June 30th. So with that, Tim's going to walk you through, and Chris is going to walk you through the budget itself, and then we can have some conversation from there.
Very good. Directors, do you want to ask questions as we go along? Is that the best way for all of us?
Yes, that's fine.
I think so. Instead of holding it and losing where we're at.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, bear with me on this because I'm kind of playing it by ear, what I can see and what I can't see. So bear with me. All right, Tim, take it away.
Okay, I think Mike covered some of the basic administrative matters that we wanted to open with today, which is we'll do the presentation deck on the FY22 budget. This will do the capital budget. There are a series of schedules attached to the packet you received. For example, job descriptions, salary schedules, rates and charges, those other items. We'll save those till the end. And then possibly if you have questions or would like to walk through them, we'll go through those. But to begin, let's go ahead and get the slide deck up. And can you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Tim, go to screen, full screen. Presentation.
I hit the slide presentation. There we go. Okay. Okay, the FY22 operating budget. We'll start off doing a little review. You probably have seen these schedules if you were here last year for the budget. We talk about revenues and expenses. We want to break that down a little bit, just as a reminder of how the airport operates. The revenue groups, we have three groups. We have pure variable revenues. We have semi-variable revenues, and we have relatively fixed revenues. Each of these behave a little differently. They have different inputs. And when we monitor all of our contracts and services, we have to always keep this in mind. So you can see the variables mostly consist of the business activities of the airport, the commercial airlines, the GA landing fees, aprons, RON, fuel flowage, those types of things. And taxes, our periodic taxes that come through. Our semi-variables have a combination of a MAG and a concession, and may even have rents involved with them, which are really more part of fixed, but there's multiple items in the semi-variable. Again, MAGs, we get a minimum monthly payments. We then are followed up with an actual concession report that gives us what additional income we got received from the businesses operating. And good news, I think we're seeing across the board at the airport, those are picking up. The fixed revenues, terminal rents, all the airlines, rental car companies, some of the other businesses at the airport, they pay a fixed terminal rent, FBO rents, hangars. So again, these are all of our generally fixed categories. When we talk about expenses, we really look at, there's actually technically 4 categories. We combine our contracts really with manager controlled expenses, but we have our salaries and taxes. And that's one of the main categories we look at for expenses. Benefits includes all the typical compensation related benefits. We lump in CalPERS UAL into that pool, and we track it accordingly by each department. And by, for example, the fire department that we have as a contracted service still has UAL. Police department still has UAL. So we track those separately, but those are included under benefits. Our law enforcement contract with DRO and fire services contract with the city of Monterey and our district legal services are all part of our contract expenses. This group here, kind of the spaghetti list, and this is a reading test for you. This is what all of the managers focus on and pay attention to. These are all the details, day-to-day operations. They represent the salaries, and all the other contracts represent about 72% of our expenses. These represent about 28% of our expenses for the airport. So in that review exercise, do you have any questions about any of the information shared so far? Hearing none, I'll move on.
Gary, this is Bill Sequa. I have just one general question, and maybe this is a good time for Tim to expound on this. Based upon just off the top of your head, in reviewing what we encountered last year, actual versus budget, were there any things other than the fact that the air carrier revenues were substantially down and we did rate abatements? Is there anything that jumps out at you that says, "Ooh, we didn't anticipate this," or "We did better than that"? Just to review last year's budget.
And I'm going to apologize, Director Sabo, you cut in and out a little bit. Can you say that? And I have earphones, so.
Just quickly review last year's budget versus actual. Was there anything that jumped out at you that was unanticipated, either on the revenue side or on the expense side, that was either very good or very bad?
And not COVID related.
And well, again, last year's budget, the initial budget was extremely conservative. And I think we were all aware of that. We took a very conservative approach because we didn't know where things were going to go. Obviously, we saw recovery starting late in the year. And when we did the reforecast, again, we projected some positive responses in revenues. But I think we're seeing better than what we expected. The rental cars are moving forward quickly in a very positive way. Parking, I think we all see parking is coming back. Airlines, obviously, we've seen better performance than what we originally expected, and the employments absolutely are climbing. So from a revenue perspective, we have some very positive changes within the various categories. On the expense side, I think we've done a pretty good job of controlling the expenses. The only anomaly was the decision to expense the State Water Resources Control Board expense. That was the only thing that really was, I would think, an unexpected negative. We weren't sure where that was really going to end up. So that's really just a quick summary. I think the airport is obviously seeing an uptick in business. And we're still controlling our expenses like we always do.
Okay, what I was getting at, was there any like extraordinary maintenance expense or extraordinary benefit that came from not doing some things? You know, was there anything that really benefited you other than the overall spreadsheet?
Well, excuse my ad lib here, but I think the CRSA and the American Recovery Plan, I think, are very positive things that are showing our direction. As for operations, I can't think of anything that's truly out of line.
Okay, thank you.
The going on to the FY 22 budget assumptions. An interesting research project for the budget here. Our commercial landing is expected for the FY 22 forecast. We're just over 2,600 flights or landings for the airport. The FY 22 budget includes 5,433. I'll explain that a little more in a moment. Employment forecasted to be about 89,000 for fiscal 21 forecast. I think we're going to do better than that. We're probably by 3,000 or 4,000, maybe 5. We forecast 214,000 employments for fiscal 22. Seats available in fiscal 21, 195,000. Available seats expected based on the published flight reservation system, 357,000. Load factor, 46%. Will probably end up being between 46 and 48% for fiscal 21. And we've conservatively budgeted 60% for fiscal 22 for a couple of reasons. The airline flight schedules are operated as published. We expect the airline flight schedules to be operated as published on the reservation system. And that was the foundation for forecasting 5,433 flights. That's probably the one area that could be at risk a little bit, knowing that airlines do change their schedules, but it's still possible, assuming they get on a normal track. Commercial flights by airlines, this is broken down. I won't read it. If you have questions about the schedule, I'd be glad to go through those if you have any specific questions.
Gary, I have a question about budget assumptions.
Go ahead.
I think all the statistics we have here on your budget assumptions can be pretty much verified by what data we have available. How did you arrive at the figure of the estimated 60% load factor? That's significant.
We're looking at history, and once we went through, if we look at history, there's a little table, and actually we'll go ahead and look at that table right now. If you look at history, typically on our ups cycles, we're running 70 or just under 70%. One of the risks here in forecasting is, and I'll be frank, United's schedule. I'm concerned about it personally, but we are following what they've published. their flight schedule could change significantly. You knock out they are currently, I think we have 7 flights included. They're running 2 currently. I understand, I just got an update recently that I looked online, and it looks like we're going to have 5 sometime in the near future. Will they get to 7? I don't know. So after discussing the issues with the executive director, the decision was we would go ahead and start with 60%. Because again, there's a risk in obviously in the number of flights that could be coming in. That number is then used and is used to extrapolate, for example, rental cars, parking, other things that happen in the airport. So again, that's why we want the 60% number.
Thank you.
Any questions on the airlines and all the details here besides Mr. Director Sabo's question? Okay, again, this is just a brief summary of the air carrier schedule and our forecast for fiscal 21 and our hopes for fiscal 22. So continuing on the budget assumptions, FY21 included rebates. I think there's been several discussions on the canceling of those rebates on May 31st. Terminal concessions, they will continue receiving rebates for June of fiscal 21 and July of fiscal 22. FBO tenant rent abatements will be canceled as of May 31. Staff increases, there's a proposal for 3 new staff members, so the airport will then have 25 employees, and there is a proposal and discussion for merit increases. The goal covered debt service, capital, district capital improvement projects. There are 3 sources of funding, and I did change the acronym for the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. It's now the American Reinvestment Plan. But we have the CRSA, the CARES, the CRSA, and the ARP funds used to offset operating losses, if any, debt service, and CIP. There's no planned increases to the existing FY21 rates and charges for fiscal 22. Except there's the addition of notice of violation and business license fees, which were included in the attached document. So let's walk through some of the changes in revenue for fiscal 22. Revenues are estimated to be. I'm sorry?
Could we go back to your assumptions?
Absolutely.
Gary, is that okay?
Sure.
Couple of things. One on no increases to existing FY21 rates and charges. Can you discuss the thinking behind no change, no increases?
Quite simply, Director, it's our attempt, our continuing attempt to do 2 things. One, overall, we've worked very hard to keep our rates and charges in market, and we're going to stay there by keeping our rates and charges flat again this year. This will be the 6th consecutive year that we've done this. Secondly, I don't think it's an appropriate time for us to increase rates and charges on some of our vulnerable partners, the airlines, car rentals, restaurants. I think it's good that we're not doing that this year. It doesn't mean that we won't do it next, but that's the strategy behind this.
Okay.
And we also in finance discussed, Bill, the fact that a lot of our passengers are also just coming off of some pretty bleak times, and we want to break their bad behavior of going north. So the best thing we can do is to hold our fees and everything in check to encourage them to use us. Particularly when the airlines are putting so many flights on. It's a perfect time right now to get some of that 65% leakage.
Okay. The other question I had about the assumptions, could you in general discuss why we need to do staffing increases at the time when we're still trying to recover from the effects of the COVID? We're trying to build that traffic back or down the road.
Quite simply, it's in response to what we see as a growing need on a staff level. One of the three positions is a currently unfilled but approved position, it's a janitorial position. We chose not to fill that at the front end of COVID. It was vacant at the time, we just did not fill it, so we're proposing.
So this is not a new.
That one is not.
It's just a fill-in vacant spot.
Yeah. The other two positions are in response to growing need. The senior executive assistant position is in response to a need to be more diligent in how we handle the affairs of the airport, particularly as it relates to what we publish in the public. But I think the overarch is I was asking one employee, Amanda, to take care of all of that, plus drive our social media program. Social media is going to be a growing part of what we do here for marketing. I'm going to need more of her attention on that. So it's a bifurcation of what I've asked her to do for the last few years, so that she'll take on the role of social media marketing, and this new person will take on an enhanced role in providing the executive assistant support that is needed in the office. Finally, the property specialist. I have one person who is doing a phenomenal job managing our property affairs, filling most of her time, because of the turnover, most of her time is spent on the RV parking. Is there recreational vehicle parking, RVs?
Oh,
There's a huge turnover there. We are full, and as soon as one person leaves, another person wants to come in. That takes a lot of time, but as we start to look at the notice of violations and the business licenses and enhanced inspections, we're going to need more help there. One person can't do all of that. She's untrained, but she's learning quickly and doing a great job, but she needs some support.
so just to be clear, what you said now, are you adding a person on to do that work, or are you converting an existing person?
I have an existing person right now that is doing that work. She is untrained, but doing quite remarkably well. She needs support. There's more there to manage our properties than what one person can handle.
Okay, so this
is an additional.
I won't ask any more about
Okay.
staffing in the future, but I'm still a little unclear. We have somebody doing that, I presume, is in planning department.
Correct.
Okay, so she, whoever that is doing the work right now, but they need support.
Yes.
Okay. This sounded to me a position like a specialist that like did all that stuff. And so what happens to the other things that the current person is doing?
She will continue to do those. This person will be, should we find the right candidate, will be more trained in managing property affairs. And will have the ability to work directly with the current employee who's doing this work. Plus, we're expanding the role and function of that position or of that need, properties, as we address business licenses, notices, violations. And
Okay.
we continue to.
Who's going to lead that effort in project in properties? Is it going to be the new person or the old person?
They will be on equal footing. It will be led by Chris Morella. She's in charge of property.
So we have two property specialists.
We have two property specialists.
Okay.
One is called an executive assistant. Her role takes on a number of different roles. She provides executive assistant support to the planning department, as well as what she does in properties. The new position will be more focused just on properties.
Okay, clarifies it. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Gary.
Fine. Go ahead, Tim.
So along that line, how much revenue do you think in addition will be gained to help offset the salary? Have you given thought to that?
You know, it's difficult to assign revenue to that position because most of it is management of existing tenants and management of turnover. We're at almost 100% on, if not at 100%, we may well be on our hangar tenants. We're also at that same level with the RV part. But both of those have significant turnover, so it's a lot of churning of milk, if you will. That doesn't really generate net new revenue now, but as we get our feet under ourselves in properties, the position will have the property specialist position. Hopefully, we'll have the ability to start working more closely on development of ancillary properties.
But I mean, if you think it through, someone who is dedicated to that. So if you've got an opening, rather than it sit vacant for 2 weeks or a month, maybe they can be more on top of it.
Yeah.
And to get somebody in, I'm just trying to think
No,
of
you're-
how we make a case of why we're adding in the middle of still a downturn.
Yeah, you're correct. You are correct. It will allow us to be more efficient in how we manage properties.
It might be something you just kind of keep your eye on, that we take a look at, that we do that. And then the other thing is, and I've said it to you, Mike, I really think it would be good if we could get somebody that had either a real estate license, who understands a lot of it. Who could do some of that, because some of those things that come to us show a lack of that, and I'm just afraid sooner or later we're gonna get in trouble because Scott didn't have the bandwidth to catch something, and so it might be good if we're
Sure.
looking and can make it in our own way, that we get somebody that's got some background in it.
And I think when you and I talked about that, it would be great to have that as a skill set.
That was all, Gary.
Okay, Tim, go ahead.
Okay. Moving on to changes in revenues. The FY22 budget is going to increase from about 5.4 to 8.5 million per year. It represents about 42.9% increase, or approximately 2.56 million in revenues. When we look at the variable and semi-variable revenues, semi-variable is going to be approximately 2.3, 26.9% increase, or 699,000. Semi-variables are going to be approximately 1.3 million, 14% increase, or 378,000. Components, commercial airlines, a #1 driver, landing, and other associated fees, apron, RON, fuel, those types of things. Rental car concession increase, we're expecting 344,000 in increase, and we're already starting to see that materialize right now in fiscal 21 as business starts to come back. Our terminal concessions, again, they're going to be receiving the abatements through July, and we've taken a conservative position on those as the restaurant is still developing. We're hoping those are going to increase up to by 53 or 54,000. Heavy GA landing fees, again, we're already starting to see the recovery. And we're expecting landing and fuel voyage fees to increase by about 41,000 over the forecast for fiscal 21. And other operating revenues, utilities, permits, miscellaneous, we're expecting those to increase. One of the biggest components of the utilities is water. We're going to have chargebacks on those this year. We're expecting a rate increase, and you'll see the other side of that equation in the expenses for water expenses. The fixed revenue side, we're expecting almost 5 million, 58.1% increase, or about 1.5 million. The biggest chunk of that is a return of the normal rents for the airlines and the rental cars. It's 1.1 million. The abatements, obviously, that was the benefit they received in fiscal 21, and we hope to recoup all that in fiscal 22. Fixed base operators, increase of 231,000. That was their abatements they received in fiscal 21. So we're hoping to see that come back. And non-aviation tenants, the big increase there is the return of Tarpey's rents. Again, those were abated in fiscal 21. And we have some small increases, normal annual increases for some of the tenants of the 2801 properties. So there will be some small changes there. And other net operating decreases. We have a couple of items in there. Employee parking, and there was a one-time expense or one-time income in fiscal 22 or fiscal 21 that won't reoccur in fiscal 22. So that's a summary of the changes we were expecting in revenues in fiscal 22. Any questions on this slide?
I have one there.
Go ahead.
So rent-a-cars, we're seeing an increase there. We had an issue with them not being in the terminal all the time. Has that corrected itself?
No, it's not. They are still not meeting the requirement in their contract. We're growing in spite of their limited hours. They continue to tell us that they're having a difficult time finding employees.
I hear that on a lot of levels.
We have some assurance that as soon as they can find staffing to staff up to the hours required, that they'll be there. But we have seen no progress today.
Okay, thank you.
Director Soni?
You're muted, Lisa.
There I go. Hitting too many buttons. Take my hand down and unmute too. With that rental car, Director Lapierre, are there enough cars on the airport? I know that's a concern around the country, really, and I've experienced it myself in travels. Any idea?
I don't think that we've seen a situation where there are no cars available, but we're just coming into the busy season. The rental car companies that I've talked to are still saying their fleets are down by 40%. And they have a difficult time replacing, building that fleet back up because of the limited availability. So you see the price of cars going significantly up, and the availability of cars going significantly down. The rental car companies seem to be trending in that same direction. They can't get cars. The cars that they have are much more expensive. But I don't think we've seen a time where we've run out of cars completely so far.
Okay, thank you for that. I know it's kind of an industry concern, and yeah, they did decrease their fleet quite a bit with COVID. Tim, I have a question about just where the fiscal year 2022 budget stands compared to 2020. What percentage are we close to being made whole from 2 years ago, or do you have a grasp of that at all?
I don't have the documents in front of me, Lisa, but just from memory, we're approaching a return to fiscal 2020 revenues. We're probably short by 400,000, maybe 400 to 600,000. But we obviously are going in the right direction
Right.
that we can say. So
So it's a strong recovery.
Uh,
Okay,
Our budget in 2019, FY 2020 was $9.6 million balanced. So there's your comparable to what we are with this budget.
thank you.
Yeah.
Mike, do you have an idea of how Go is doing over there with their rental cars?
Seem to be doing just fine. As the Jet Center's traffic increases, they're doing increasingly better. They're operating on a different model. They're much more customer service oriented, so they'll have people here when they have customers that have reservations. So I think they're doing just fine, and we haven't seen again a reduction in the availability. But
Do we make equal income off of those?
we get the same income with the exception of the terminal rent. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would it be wise for us to maybe put on our website that we have the following car rentals available and put them on there? So that if somebody comes in here on a 7 or 8 o'clock flight,
Mhm.
that they could potentially have the opportunity to get serviced over there.
We can talk to them and see if they're interested.
I mean, it's another way for us to satisfy
Sure, we
our
can
customer
We can
base.
certainly talk to them and see if they're interested. They initially were not interested in any business out of the terminal, something like, but they're interested.
I think if people know that type of car and the difference between, budget rental and what they have. But if you really want a car and you're flying in for 3 or 4 days, you wouldn't know that that is here on this property at all. We don't have it in the terminal. And maybe that would also be a little wake up call to our little friends down there. If we put a sign up, car rentals also available at blah, blah, blah.
It's a work in progress, but that's a good idea. I'll explore what go and see if they're interested.
To me, if I came to that counter at 7 o'clock at night and it was closed and I had no opportunity and I had reservations, I don't know, post ranch,
Mhm.
I'd sure like to know there's another possibility here on the property. Sorry, Gary, just had an idea.
Yeah, no, yeah, Mike, I have a follow-up on that as well. Where did we were discussing sending a strong message to the rental car companies about hours, et cetera. Where are we on that?
We have not unleashed the legal effort as yet. Tim is taking the point with the car rentals to try to get them to move in a positive direction in terms of hours, so we've held off on the legal angle today.
Director Curcio, we reached out to, again, all 3 agencies. Out of the 5 that have desks there, they're really a conglomerate. So Hertz, they were made aware and confirmed that they were in the process of restaffing to get up to speed. I think all 3 agencies are talking, but they were trying to restaff for hours, knowing that volumes were coming up. They also, the property manager was not aware that they weren't meeting the requirement for scheduled arrivals, late arrivals. So she was going to speak to the managers about that. The Avis budget group, they've been made clearly aware that they're our number 1 offender in not servicing our customers, and by documented actions, and we're expecting a response from them as to what they're going to do. I haven't reached out to them to follow up, but they said they were going to follow up. And I believe the executive director talked to EHI or Enterprise National. And I think they were on a staffing hire too as well, I believe.
Yeah, I feel we have to really stay on top of that because you got to be ready. We are going to be busy. We're getting busier every day. And the least irritation to the guests, the better. And if they can't get a rental car at our airport at 7 o'clock at night, that's a problem. And I'm simply saying that we need to stay on top of it and we need to take whatever action is necessary because they need to gear up no differently than every other business on this peninsula has to gear up and be ready for the
Submit, Chair Curcio, just some quick statistics. I popped open the stats that we keep on the rental car companies. They were down in December around 1,600. They then climbed for the last 2 months. 1 month in March, they're 2,500. In April, they're 2,826 rental contracts. So they rented that many cars. Historically, we've averaged around 2,500. So obviously, they're feeling the pressure to rent cars, and it's increasing. So statistically, they are climbing along with us. I don't think they have a reason not to be there for those late flights, and we just need to press on them at some point.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Tim, keep going.
I have a question.
And I have a question also.
Go ahead, Bill.
First of all, based on the discussion we just had, would it be the property specialist's responsibility or responsibility to monitor whether or not these concessionaires are complying with the agreements relative to being open and having facilities for passengers being there? It's separate and apart from, the numbers about how much business they're generating.
Yes, between the property specialist who would be the point person on that and the data gathering that operations and the police do, will have a much better full circle, complete full circle effort to do exactly what you said.
I think that would be helpful. And every airport that I looked at, by the way, on the subject, they have the same 5 or 6 o'clock shutdown. So we're not unique, but I think I agree with Gary. It's a real difficult situation for an inbound passenger from Dallas and all of a sudden they didn't look on our website and there ain't no cars. There ain't no cars anywhere in town. So at least cars. So could you go back one slide? Because I can't, it's so dark in here, I can't read mine. Yeah, Tim?
Yes, sir.
Could you go back one slide?
Absolutely.
Yeah, when you put that figure up there for commercial aviation fees, does that include terminal rents or not?
No, that's just airline activities.
I know. Does it include their rental of space in the terminal?
No.
Okay, so that's a separate item.
Yes.
Okay, and on rental car and parking concessions, did you adjust that for this most recently agreed upon lease?
I'm sorry for the current changes in the lease. No, I did not specifically do that. It hadn't. No, I did not.
Okay,
So
my recollection was that we were taking a little bigger drag.
We are a slightly bigger drag. I believe the numbers were between $14,000 and $21,000 a year.
Myself, where they were,
Yeah.
for the final. On the fuel flowage fees, we have GSX starting over there. How are you counting the fuel? They're not heavy GA, they're, I guess, airline fuel. I guess. How are you counting the fees?
JSX will be just another customer through the airline fuel charges, so they'll be charged 5 cents a gallon like all the other commercial airlines.
Okay, so they're not, it's not being lumped together with GA, heavy G.
No.
Okay, thank you. I'm done.
I had a follow-up question.
Good.
Jim, I noticed for the forecast employments for last year, you had, what, 171,000?
Forecasted employments or flights?
Employments.
20, just under 2,700 or 27. Oh, excuse me. I'll go back to the slide rather than talking off the top of my head. Employments 89,000 is what we're approximately, or 90,000, and we're expecting 214 this year.
Okay, so going back to last year, I wrote down the number 171,000 forecasted. Is that what we thought we were going to have, or what?
I'm sorry, I don't recognize it.
Can you go back one more?
Oh, this way?
Yes, right there. So under 2020, we had 171,000. Okay, I see. I got the year wrong. So forecasted at 89,000. What was your forecast before Corona hit?
Well, we forecasted actually lower than 89,000 because of the number of flights we were going to have come in on the initial budget. I think we were down around 60,000.
Okay. Okay, well, that's quite an optimistic amount, 214,349. We haven't seen those numbers in quite some time.
Agreed.
And that's at 60% load factors. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the number of seats. It's an equation based on number of seats. We have more seats available. Our market tends to follow the capacity.
Okay.
And pretty comfortable with that number. I think it's a number that we will relatively easily eclipse.
Okay, that's very good news.
Yeah, obviously it's capacity dependent. One of the things we were able to do in pandemic was retain as much of our service as possible. And that's not going away. In fact, they're adding to that.
Why do you think that is? Because if they're adding to us, that means they're taking away from somebody else, aren't they usually?
The sum total of the answer I will give you is the industry right now is chasing discretionary travel. They're chasing leisure travel,
market.
and we are a leisure market.
Okay.
I think that's why we're being treated the way we're being treated.
Okay.
Which is a positive thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it is very good news.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Thank you. That's all I have.
That means you can wear your leisure wear uniform.
That's what I'm doing right now.
No pants.
Okay, moving on to head count. I think there's been discussion on these, on the changes proposed for the senior executive assistant and the property specialist, and the return of an open custodial spot. And the 8 part-time HR position has been removed. We're going to handle that internally with augmenting it with services from Dave Ritchie with Huber and Cole. Any questions about this slide?
Say that again about the HR person, because
We were using regional government services on a very part-time basis. And from an administrative standpoint, we can handle internally. My accounts payable accountant has an HR background. So we can take care of a lot of the routine administrative duties. Dave Ritchie will be from Huber and Cole will be engaged for technical matters, including the MOU negotiations and those types of things, or any legal updates to the handbooks.
So that person in your department, Tim, is going to stay abreast of changes in HR law, rules and regulations, and posters and stuff like that. They're going to be charged with that responsibility.
Yes, actually, both Shelley and myself, we're trying to stay abreast of that. We have a couple of seminars we're considering to be updated. We get regular updates through various through SBRMA and others. We get updates on changes within the law. So we try to stay abreast of those. Again, our need is fairly small for support at this point with 25 employees. There's 2 of us internally that can handle all the basics and some technical matters, but really if it gets where we need professional advice, we reach out to Dave.
Well, since we're on this, if we have a situation in-house with a disgruntled employee that needs one interaction with one of our professional, with our staff or our management team, are you going to have somebody, is one of your people going to be kind of trained to be able to deal with that, or are you going to immediately farm that out to an outsider?
That'll go to Dave Ritchie with Cole Huber. Dave is an HR attorney. You've met him. He's covered board meetings in the past. His specialty is HR, and we'll use him as needed in that case. A disgruntled employee will engage Dave if we need to.
Okay, let me give you an example. This HR thing is kind of important to me because I think we have potential liability, even though we don't have much activity in that. If in fact, I think that in getting an increase in my pay was based on performance, and I got rated lower than somebody else, and I'm really concerned about that, and I think I'm being maybe discriminated against. So the first thing that I do is I go to you, and then you refer me to Richie right away.
No,
Is that right?
No. The first thing that an employee will do if they dispute their appraisal or their review is they will go to their immediate supervisor and have that
Sorry.
discussion. They then have the opportunity to appeal to me. And that's where the line is drawn. We will not engage Dave on an appeal of a review. The review is what it is, and I'll rule on whether it stands or whether it needs to be modified based on the process that we use. If that employee continues to push, then Dave will be engaged. And that's what we've been doing for the last 16 months. RGS has not been with us for at least 16 months now.
Okay, I'm kind of aware of that. I was trying to think about potential exposure we have in the area where we don't have much activity.
Yeah.
I've been around, and
Yeah.
Carl and Brianna, we've been around when we've had some difficulties that were an HR person either trained in it or hired, had to intervene at further steps down the line of the, a lawsuit or something going to labor court, we were able to fend that off.
Yeah.
And so, and you're the arbitrator on the whole thing. You've been in the industry a long time. Are you skilled at that to keep us out of potential lawsuits?
I am skilled to the point of knowing when to call in.
But you know where the phone is.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I am not in a position to take on the role of defending our position against an attorney. So if an employee brings in an attorney,
No, of course, legal procedure, I get it, you know, it's that gray area in between where you fend it off before it gets out of. And and we keep happy relationships
Yeah,
too,
and-
you know, so that's kind of, I was a little concerned when I saw that. Whoever those people are.
This approach works because the employee base is happy, satisfied, engaged, they have ownership in what they do here. I think what you've seen in the past are instances where you had adversarial relationships with unions at times, with union members at times, that caused some of that strife. We don't have that right now.
Well, that was what I was really referring to, what I was, you know, it can go bad at any time.
Yeah.
For any one number of reasons, it's not, and you've done a nice job with the staff, you know, all that sort of stuff, but it can go bad,
Yeah.
you know, in a heartbeat. I just wanted to make sure that we, as the district, were being on top of it, to avoid any higher, escalating a higher level. And to me, it was kind of worth the money to have expertise available to us, whoever that is.
Yeah.
So
We still have it, it's just available through a different route, it's available through Dave Ritchie instead of RGS. So RGS is Regional Government Services, that's
Okay. So we can still call them up and.
we can call Dave Ritchie anytime.
Oh, is that, oh, that's who
That's
Reggie works for.
No, Dave Ritchie works for Scott Huber's farm.
Oh, okay. But we still can call RGS for a little lower level.
We do not have a contract with RGS. We did not renew the contract, they could not staff us. They could not provide us with staffing.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'm done here.
Hi,
Hold on, Director Sani's had her hand up.
oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you. And I know it's a little difficult with both of us, you know, some in person and not. So thank you, Mary Ann, our or Director Leffel. Let's see, I have just a couple of follow-ups with that. And I think that maybe can help to ensure, you know, that we've got processes in place, and they may already be in place and it's just more of a question. I believe reviews are conducted annually right now for each employee.
Correct.
Okay, and how is that tracked, or who is making sure that that is followed through within the organization?
That is one of the individuals in Tim's department, Shelley Reese.
Okay, okay. And do we have software for it, or is it just some sort of review, and is there any interaction as well with it?
The review process, Director Sani, is basically there is a multiple step process 45 days before the person's anniversary date. We currently use hire date or promotion date as the review cycle. 45 days before those dates, a personal assessment is sent out.
Okay.
At the same time, there's a second form that is sent to the manager for the employee's review. The employee submits their personal assessment. It's then reviewed by their manager. The manager obviously writes up notes as they consider, and there's a 5-tier system for reviewing rank and file. There's a few other areas in the review that are filled out as well. There's goal setting. It's a little challenging when you have people in jobs for a long time to come up with new goals, but we attempt to do that. And then once those reviews are completed by the employee and the manager, and there's a review between those two individuals, then it's forwarded to the executive director for his review and sign off. That then returns to the finance department. That's then logged in as being complete, and then it goes into their personnel record.
Wonderful. I think a lot of times, sometimes this, you know, can all be missed in a lot of things. And Bill, as you were talking about things, I think sometimes just having this process and making sure that people know there's promotion opportunities, as well as, feedback with what's going well, what's not, areas of improvement can really make a difference. So glad that's being tracked. Thank you, Tim, for explaining the process. Do we have an anonymous complaint or form that employees can use? I think that's an important thing. And I don't know if that is available at all. That can matter in legal matters.
Not have an anonymous complaint form, but complaints can be lodged with, if you are comfortable complaining or lodging your concern or complaint to your immediate supervisor, you go to the next level. And obviously you have some protections associated with that.
Okay.
Our handbook actually addresses that as well. Our handbook, there's a internal process that follows, and then actually it goes direct to district legal counsel. If somebody is concerned, they can go directly to district legal.
Okay. Thank you. I know we mentioned the benefit packet. I think as a board member, I'm requesting it be sent to me, and I think that might be beneficial to the entire board just to have that, but I would like it regardless what is given to our employees today, especially with 3 new employees being come on. And those are my comments. Thank you.
A new hire packet, that's what you're asking for?
Yeah, that would be great, Tim. Thank
We can
you.
do that.
Director Leffel, did you have something?
No, I'll pass.
Okay, before we move on, I would like to kind of get us recentered here. This is a budget workshop, and it seems to me we're going off on a few issues other than budget. And in the essence of time, we're not even close to being anywhere near any timeline on this thing. So kind of, if you please limit questions to the budget, I think it would be appreciated by all the directors. Okay, Tim, move on.
Chair Curcio,
Yeah,
along that line, I think those questions that you're getting are because we're adding positions and because we're changing a lot of way things are done. So I think they are appropriate to the budget, just saying, because otherwise we vote on a budget and then it's like, what do you mean you knew that because you voted on the budget? So I think people have to understand what they're voting on, what's making up these numbers.
I concur, Gary. I think the budget is more than just a spreadsheet. It is a plan. Budgets are a plan for the year. I guess
all right, let's move on.
I'm done talking.
The next slide, FY22 operating expense changes. Salary and wages constitute about 23.5% of our expense budget. It's going to rise about 15%, or about $225K, and the total is going to be about almost $2 million. The increase in 3 staff positions will increase salary and wages and taxes and workers' comp by about $191,000. And merit increase that was proposed in the budget is a total of $31,000, and that's a placeholder. The employee benefits constitute about 21.6% of the budget, up about 19%, or $266K, total $1.8 million. And included in that is the CalPERS underfunded liability. So out of that 266, 194,000 is UAL increase year over year. We have a decrease in workers' comp. Our experience mod is now down to 126. We should see 1 or 2 more decreases over the next 2 years. We're on a 3-year declining cycle. And if we do well this year, then again, I would expect it to decline over the next few years. Health insurance increases. It's primarily in the new staff positions and a 5.5% estimated increase for fiscal or calendar year 2022. And then CalPERS retirement increase. There was a change in the employer contributions and the PEPRA employee contributions, and that total will be about 21,000 total. Any questions on this slide?
Just one question here. Say about here. Tim, are you going to talk later about the UAL and what we're going to do going forward? This is a $200,000 increase in that revenue matter.
Yeah, that's not part of the budget discussion, but we do know that you've asked for that and we're prepared for that at some point.
Okay, we're going to talk about that
At some point, yes.
Plan
Yep.
dealing with. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Operating expenses area operating expense area percentages. This is a breakdown of how the manager controlled or our contracts influence expenses. Law enforcement is about 12.6% of our expenses. Fires about 15.8% of our expenses, and then there's a breakdown of our various other categories of expenses. Again, it's just looking at the magnitude of the impact on the budget. Again, this is just really more of an overview. Total other contract expenses are 54.9% of the budget, 4.7 million, and they're actually going down 187,000. And I can explain that on the next slide. Any questions? Okay. The 187,000 decrease. DRO's law enforcement services contract went up 2.6%. They're actually below their contracted increases. If you look back at the original contract, they gave us a very nice discount last year, or saved us. They saved staff time and money, which they passed on to the airport as well. They asked for or are expecting, upon approval of their budget, a $71,000 increase in their service fees. We have an increase in maintenance supplies over the prior year of about 15,000, which was expected with the change in business. The board approved an increase for district council legal services of about 12,000 for fiscal 22. There is the return of seminars, conferences, and workshops for the board and other staff members, and that's expected to increase about 24,000. Our big savings is from the city of Monterey's contract. It's a 10.5% decrease, or 159,000. And we also see a decrease in miscellaneous expenses, decrease in board elections over prior year, 101,000. And we also see a decrease in the Monterey Salinas highway expenses. The big variance there is, or there's two. The first one is property taxes versus accessory interest taxes, which is going to save us about 35,000 or so. And we also had some repairs and maintenance that were probably one time in fiscal, or I should say, can be a multi-year replacement or repair cycle that we can not have this fiscal 22. So we're looking at a decrease of about 45,000. Any questions on this slide?
Yes. Tim, so the decrease with the Monterey fire contract of about 159K, was that due to Mike's earlier renegotiation of the contract, or is that savings coming from somewhere else?
No, that's absolutely from executive director's negotiations.
Okay, thank you.
Tim, I have a question. Can you go into a little more detail on, I'm not sure I'm understanding this Monterey Salinas Highway operating expense. Just a little explanation of what that is?
Absolutely. The property is acquired at 2801. They have the current tenants in there. And again, I'm just going to, I'm going to do this off the top of my head. I like to use exact numbers, but we make about 400,000, 435,000 a year off of the 2801 properties. We have service expenses that we maintain the building and take care of all of the properties. We pay gardeners. We used to pay for janitors, actually. That's another component in here. But the 2801 property owner or tenants asked to take back the janitorial service. They wanted to control it. So we gave that back to them. We have taxes, utilities, all those typical things you would have as a triple net landlord. Again, that hopefully that clarifies the situation a little bit.
It does. Thanks, Tim.
Mhm.
Any questions on this slide?
Yes.
Go ahead.
That is on, it's not on the slide, but I noticed that in the category of maintenance, particularly for the terminal and the airfield, rather substantial increases. And I was kind of led to believe during the year that we were not deferring maintenance on those items particularly. And now we have a rather large increase in those two categories. What's causing the dramatic increase?
And I'm sorry, Director Sabo, I couldn't hear everything you said. You were going in and out a little bit. And I think you were talking about maintenance, supplies, and repairs.
No, we're talking about airfield and the terminal maintenance, which had rather substantial increases in the budget. I don't know where else to ask a comment about it, but and I was led to believe that we were not deferring maintenance on those two items, but now
You're not.
We're not. We're not.
Chris, you want to take that one? That's your budget.
Absolutely. We are not deferring any maintenance under it. A couple reasons for some of the increases is the increase in passenger loads will increase a lot of our supplies and materials that are necessary. More passengers, more needed custodial supplies, and custodial supplies also sit within that budget. We are also have just some slated work to be done this next year. It's not deferred work. It's just been slated to go back to some trees. We have to make sure we maintain all of our trees and our fence line perimeter. And it's just, we're on that cycle of this is the year that we need to do it. So none of these are deferred. They're just on the cycle for this fiscal year.
Is that true of the terminal and the airfield?
That is true of both, correct? Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Gary, I have a couple of questions.
Sure, go ahead.
The legal services, the 12,000 increase, that just, I know that doesn't include our lawsuits or anything that we get into that's outside of the contract. Is that just the contract that we have with Scott's firm that it will go up $1,000 a month?
Yes, Cole Huber's new agreement that was approved, and he switched from calendar year to fiscal year for our benefit. He requested an increase of $1,000 a month.
Okay, so along that line, have we in here factored in one of these items the increased dollars that was spent with Dave Ritchie?
That we have a small contingent in the HR line within the Finance and Administration Department.
So that'll come under your department.
Yes.
Okay. And then I think I heard the executive director say that he had he was proposing a maximum of 2 conferences, workshops per year per board member. Is that correct?
2 off-site conferences and 1 SWATI conference. And in finance committee suggested that we increase that budget number. We increased it by $4,000.
Okay. And is this 24,000? Oh, what I'm saying is I'm registered for 3 conferences coming up in the next couple months. And I'm telling you, no one is reducing their airfares or their hotel rates. They're trying to get
You're right.
themselves whole. And doesn't matter what city I'm in, I'm paying what I paid pretty close to.
Yeah, and that's the reason for the increase. You mentioned that at finance committee, we increased by 4,000. I'll cover that.
Okay.
And this has changed also. This is not the final expense amount. This is an increase over prior year. So there's actually more money in the budget above 24,000.
Say that again.
What you're looking at on this schedule is the increase is the 24,000 is just the increase over fiscal 21's budget or forecast. So there was more money within the budget than just the 24,000 to cover travel expenses.
Okay. And
Kim, identify what the budget line item is, please. What did we budget in that line item?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That'll make it clarify.
Any other questions?
Go back in the budget, Tim, what did we budget in that line item?
Okay. Let's see, for the board of directors, we have a total of the board of directors by themselves is 24,000, 26,000. Let's see, 14, 26. Just over 28,000 just for the board of directors.
and that's in the item that is seminars, conferences, workshops, and travel.
Yes.
Remember last year we had no budget for that. It wasn't a need for it, so that's why that 24,000 is an increase.
Director Sutton,
Go ahead, Lisa.
Are you done, Ms. Lawful?
I'm not, but go ahead and I'll go after you.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to flesh out both the law enforcement contract and the fire contract a little bit more. The Delray Oaks increased 2.6, and that was less than what we expected.
From the original contract, it was a decrease. If you look at the original contract, fiscal 21, we received a substantial reduction. And it was a conscious decision by the city of Delray Oaks at our request. Help us if you can, was the comment that we gave them. Chief Hoyne came back, and I don't remember the exact number, but it was a significant savings over our normal contract.
Okay. Do you know how they achieved those savings, or how they were able to pass those on to us?
Yes, actually I do. We went through some of the details. They made the decision based on activities at the airport and also within their district to not fill a full-time position.
Okay.
They also deferred some expenditures that were not required, but they were scheduled for equipment and other things. So they were able to save enough money that they passed on, again, a savings to us over the original contract.
And I know we've got mutual aid and things. There is still a standard of they have an officer on our property at, times of flights and arrivals and things of that nature? Is there a baseline?
Well, go ahead.
Their contract requires them to be on property within a designated response time to the checkpoint at all times that we have air carrier service.
Okay, thank you for that. And I understand there might be some sense that this is outside of the budget questions, but as we're looking at future budgets and things like that, my questions are related. Secondly, the fire contract, the renegotiating of the contract, why was there such a big decrease? Just a couple bullets or something?
That quite simply was it's a 5-year agreement that we negotiated, and we negotiated the annual rate. Backstory is they were charging us $2.1 million, which was far in excess of what we were consuming. We negotiated a step down so that there wouldn't be to eliminate some of the shock for them. So we stepped down over the first 2 years, 3 years. We're at the lowest point. We'll enjoy this point for this year, and I believe next and the following years is contract time.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarifications. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Chair Crucille?
Yes, go ahead.
So if I could, and I'm actually going to flip back one slide, Tim, to the marketing.
Okay.
And can you tell me the difference? Because, so the 2.2, does that include the additional $60,000 that we put in this year for all the new air service marketing for the Seattle and the
Yeah, a good portion of Seattle we've consumed already in this year's budget. There's still some left that will emerge next year's budget. Portland will be in there. The social media engagement with Cornell is in there. About $10,000 slated toward ongoing advertising with KRML. The balance will be, and there's some overlap here. The balance will be what Chris Chidlaw does for us in terms of media marketing.
So what is the total marketing budget? And I'm too lazy to go find it on the line item. What is it?
It's 135,000 for fiscal 22. It was 140,000 fiscal 21. And we couple all those items like marketing, public relations, and air service development. Let's see, the total was about just under 200,000 for fiscal 21. And it's approximately 185,000 for fiscal 22.
Say that again. It's what, 200,000?
It's just under 200,000 for fiscal 21. It's 140 for marketing, 23 for public relations, and air service was 25,000. And then fiscal 22, 135 for marketing, 25.5 for public relations, and 15.5 for air service development.
Okay, and then Air Service Development Committee members, then you take a look at that budget and agree that that's how it should be done. Is that true?
I'm not sure.
At Air Service Development, do you look at that budget and discuss how that budget is developed and what you're doing?
We don't look at that number, but we do inquire as to what the plan is, and kind of leads me to a place that I have on the same thing. So we don't look at the number. Air Services Committee.
I'm done. Carrie.
Gary, I have
Director Sonny?
a follow-up question.
Bill, go ahead, and then Director Sonny.
Oh, well, anyhow, in the marketing area, given that it's, a rather substantial amount of money for those three categories. Is there anything different, Executive Director, that we're going to be doing differently in the upcoming budget, for upcoming year, that is included in this budget, or is it mostly a repeat of what we did last year?
It's a repeat with the addition of the social media effort with Visit Carmel that we discussed, and an enhancement of our own internal social media opportunities to market as well. So focus more on social media and use that strategy to help offset some of the cost of traditional media advertising.
Okay, just a follow-up to that, are we going to maintain the same level of effort in trying to develop new air service?
Without question.
The reason I asked that, I thought I saw a decrease in the amount of air service development money in the
Yeah,
on that
it's-
line item.
No, that is, as I do air service development, it is opportunity based. If the opportunity presents itself, if I can generate the opportunity to go to a meeting with an airline, we will continue to do that. That's the strategy we've used in the past. This is a good estimate of what we think it will cost, but it's not gonna, remember budgeting is kind of a guidepost. If we need to spend more, we will. But the effort's not going to change at all.
All right, thank you.
Director Sonny?
Chair. So Tim, did I hear you right that there's actually just a slight decrease this year in the third-party marketing, public relations, and air service development?
Yes, there is a decrease, approximately 10 to 15,000.
Okay. And I guess I'm wondering this year if we don't really want to be looking at that, considering that we're trying to do more outreach and we have a lot more seats available for the entire community. And I would request, it sounds like air services maybe needs to flush it out first. But I seem to see others in the industry really reaching out and doing more. And I think we do have an opportunity. I appreciate that we're going to do more on Facebook. I know that that's, pretty Instagram as well, with social media. So you can do that very inexpensively and compare it to other marketing campaigns. But it would be, I'm a little surprised that it's actually lower this year, knowing that we have great opportunity to try and reach out to even some new clients and guests in our airport. Thank you.
Okay, Tim, go ahead.
Okay. Go to the next slide. Here's a summary, P&L, revenue and expenses, fiscal 21 versus fiscal 22. And I can entertain any questions. Hopefully it's understandable based on earlier discussions. And any questions on this slide?
Lisa, go ahead.
Not a question. I just want to thank all who put this together. I always appreciate seeing the information sliced and diced in different ways. And I think this presentation really does that. So thank you to those that put it together.
Okay. Any other questions on this slide?
What is that number showing us there where it says salary and wages and taxes $1,967.
1 million.
Yeah, these are in thousands.
Okay,
So it's almost $2 million.
okay. Thank you. I see the 3 little zeros up the top. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Go ahead, Jim.
The last slide in this presentation, before Chris does the capital budget, there's cash flow considerations that we have to consider. And this is not what the final, this is somewhat of we hope, a worst case scenario for use of cash in fiscal 22 versus fiscal 21. We had a cash operating loss of just over 1.5 million for our business operations in fiscal 21. We prepay some expenses and amortize them out. That impacts operating income. And then we have other payments that have to come from quote unquote operating income, such as the pension obligation bond, the solar CEC loan, and our PG&E on-bill loans. Those are again paid with straight operating income, as well as our district funded capital projects or acquisitions. So again, there's 4 items on here that are strictly come from operating income or reserves. And so in fiscal 21, and again, this was an estimated number, about a little over $3.3 million in cash. How did we maintain that? Obviously, the CARES and Rsa, and eventually we may be using the ARP Act grant or draws. For fiscal 22, again, we will have some decisions to make along the way. And obviously will be discussions with the executive director as we progress through activities. We can draw the prepaid CalPERS and SDRMA workers' comp directly from the Rsa or the CARES Rsa and eventually the ARP Act grants. And then the others, the pension obligation, the CEC loans, and the PG&E on-bill loan payments, as well as the capital acquisitions for fiscal 22, those last 4, those will, without a doubt, or will likely come from the CARES or the Rsa Act or the ARP Act. Again, unless something changes with our budget, the airlines do better, concessions do better, because right now we're essentially forecasting a break-even year of revenue over expenses. Why we're showing the just over 2 million for fiscal 22 as a total potential draw? There's a decision to make again for the prepaids, and that'll be something that'll be discussed with the executive director. We can draw early, and if cash flows are doing well, we can fund, and if we're on a positive operating income, we can potentially use the operating income to pay for the other 4 items. They're the lower 4 items that are typically funded from operating income. And that's what the asterisk denotes on each of those. So again, this is not the final scenario for fiscal 22. This is a potential scenario. What we've included in the cash flow side or the below operating income side in the financial package is a different number, and that is it's just over $1 million. And I'm not sure who received the package cash flow analysis. The executive director I know asked for that yesterday, so I'm not sure who received it. But it shows just over $1 million in potential draws from the CARES and Rsa or the ARP Act. So again, that's a quick explanation on this slide. And there, in the final package, there will be more information on cash flow.
I have a question on this slide.
Yes.
So looking at the pension obligation bond, you say principal only, so we are paying interest, of course, right?
What we've been able to do, Director Miller, is we have been able to prepay that. So again, this is the worst case scenario. This is the number they're asking for. We will be able to reduce that by between 3.5 and 4% if we prepay it, which we've taken advantage of that over the last 2 or 3 years. Again, it's a nice number, 35. I think the number is 35,000. I think approximately if we prepay it. So it makes sense to prepay.
And how long do we have on that bond?
On the pension obligation bond,
Correct.
1 more year,
Oh,
2 payments.
Oh, that's good news. Okay, thank you.
I have a question on this slide, Gary.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
I'm a little confused as to why on the prepaid CalPERS UAL payments and the prepaid workers' comp, why those have been extracted, removed from our income statement. I understand that we're applying for reimbursement on those 2 items, but why would they not be included as they traditionally have been in our income statement, which would cause us to actually see a $1 million loss for the upcoming fiscal year, albeit it's going to be reimbursed by the government. Why are those things not included in our income statement?
This goes back to my statement that this is a worst case scenario, Director Sabo. So what we traditionally do, or what we have done before pandemic, is we would take the money from our reserves. We would prepay both the CalPERS UAL and the SDRMA workers' comp prepayments. Again, that's how we get our discounts on both of them. We then would amortize that over the year, expense it, and the operating income, as we started recognizing cash flow or operating income, we would take that cash and put it back into our reserves every single month, assuming we were in a positive cash flow position, which pre-pandemic we generally were. So why this is called out, there's a decision to be made in the near future as to how we're going to handle this. Again, this is worst case scenario, is what I was trying to point out, that we could make the choice of funding everything out of the CARES or Rsa acts, or out of one of the grants, and in turn, that would be the number that would come out overall, or we can prepay it, amortize it out, and then potentially take it out of operating income. Again, there's a little bit of a difference. It's a subtle cash flow issue, but I wanted to show the worst case scenario in case we do have to take all that money from one of the grants.
Okay. I heard what you said, but it doesn't answer my question, which is the UAL payments, whether they're prepaid or spread out over each month or end up in one payment at the end of the year. They also are expense items, operating expense items.
Correct. Correct.
Why are they not on the income statement?
They are.
I didn't see them.
They are. If you look in the detailed income statement, you will see a line item, and I can point to page 2 of 8. And you'll look down about half, there's a black line through the middle of the page. If you go back up, it says CalPERS UAL. And there's also a workers' comp line. And that is when we prepay it, we amortize it out over the year.
And just to help me a little bit, is it below that big dark line or above?
It's above big dark line. It's right in the middle. It says CalPERS. You'll see CalPERS retirement, CalPERS UAL.
Okay, I see CalPERS UAL, that says 21,000. And I'm looking at a number like 929,000. Can you help me with that? I don't know.
Absolutely. We allocate it. So for example, a big chunk of that 929,000 is our fire department. Over almost $450,000. That's not going to, we're not going to, we can choose to dump this all in one account, or we can allocate it out to where it is.
That UAL number is in each department then.
Correct.
Okay, I didn't see that, so I stand corrected. Is that true of the workman's comp too?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, and then the loan payments here for POB and CEC and whatever that PG&E bill loan payment is, those are typically below the line items, below the net income statement.
Now, these are principal only that you're looking at. So the interest is recognized below the line in the detailed income statement. Their expense, they're recognized in our monthly packages. It's the actual interest expense. So this is principal only.
Okay. All right. All right. I understand the presentation now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Sani?
Mike.
Yes.
Thank you. A request, could we have the total remaining for the CARES, CRSA, and ARP just noted on this page? Looking at our previous budgets and coming up with the numbers.
You will receive a detailed assumption summary. All that information will be in the packet. We can add it to the slide if you like. In the numbers off the top of my head, we have 8.8 million in CARES. We have just under 1.7, I think it's 167 for CRSA, and we're still waiting for the information on the American Recovery, or American Recovery Plan.
Okay, yeah, and I know it's right in your head. You guys are dealing with it all the time. It would just be nice to have it, even if it's just an asterisk at the bottom, how much there is. Thank you.
Be glad to.
At this point, are there any other questions to this point? Okay. Would the directors like to take 5 at this point?
Yes. Sure.
All right, let's take 5. Okay. Chris, are you going to take it from here?
I am. Tim's going to use his screen if he doesn't mind, and I will bring you through the capital improvement projects. Not as exciting as the others.
Can you see it, Chris?
Yeah, if you could go to full screen, please.
I will. There you go.
Perfect. You can go to the next slide. So proposed FY22 capital improvement projects. So the first group of projects that you see on here, and if you can see any coloring, I'm not sure that you can, but everything that has a number and is above the gray are projects that are in progress and will be carried over into fiscal year 22. The first is the Nepa Sequa Safety Initiative. While that project has been completed, we do have some funds that could be eligible for reimbursement as we go into construction grants. So that project will remain open. The FIDS and the PA and ADA upgrades will, 2 components are completed, but the ADA upgrades we're still working on. So that project will move again into FY22. This upgrades to some of our cameras will also move into FY22. Northside GA apron construction and Northeast VSR improvements, which are currently underway with Tigert construction, are moving along very well, but will also be completed in FY22. Rsa Mitigation Project, we will go into our final year of our required 7 years of mitigation. We are currently in our year 6, and we will move into year 7. So that will move into 22. SEP is the term we're using for our safety enhancement program. Phase A1, the commercial apron design, that the board just recently approved the contract with CNS engineers to do that design based on getting our FAA grant for this fiscal year. We're still waiting on the actual grant award. Although it is in process, it has been programmed. We just haven't seen the award for that grant. So that project also will continue into fiscal year 22. And Southside land acquisition, 4.4 acres, which was approved in this fiscal year, will continue into FY22, pending having some negotiations. The one new project that would be proposed for FY22 under the capital improvement program, which these are co-funded projects, these are AIP and PFC funded only projects, would be our design build project. That would be the safety enhancement phase B, and that would include the ARF potential building design, our service road, which is a small service road that will connect between the north side apron and the main runway, as well as the demolition of the current facility once the new one would be up and running. So that would be our proposed project under AIP PFC for fiscal year 22. And again, FAA's fiscal year begins October 1st and concludes on September 30th. So we would potentially be looking for a grant sometime in the spring of next year, spring till about this time. Typically, they like to try to get all their grants out the door. They say by the end of June. Obviously, we haven't seen ours yet for this year, so it really depends on timing for FAA. If anyone has any questions on this one, I'd be happy to take them.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. Just on things that I don't see up there. I know in the past, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, didn't we have plans to expand the solar farm?
No, we have, excuse me. No, not that I know of, we haven't, but this is only AIP projects right now. So these are potential FAA co-funded projects. We do have our own capital improvement projects that I'll go into next. So
Get ahead of you.
a little bit, but that's okay. No? Okay, Tim, please, next slide.
I had it.
Oh, okay, back
Okay.
up.
Sorry, I guess I wasn't paying enough attention as you went through this, but of the 332,000, which I guess is yet to be spent, I thought we finished the bid system. What are the things that are undone yet?
On that one, the ADA compliant components, which it's a couple things that we have to do to enhance our ADA compliance. One is some type of a possible automatic door over on the observation.
Right?
I'm sorry?
No more bids, screens or anything like that.
No, the FIDS project and the PA are completed. It was a combined project that had 3 components. So that's why that project will roll over. And it's the only component that's not completed of all of that is the ADA compliant component.
And what is a VSR improvement? What does VSR stand for again?
That's the vehicle service road improvements that we are currently doing with Tigert on the northeast corner. It's connecting the vehicle service road that was built during the RSA up and around the outside the fence.
It's got Now, the other question I had on that slide, given that we have not made a decision as to what we're going to do with the terminals and all that, and maybe there are some questions about the location of the firehouse going forward. Is there a time limit on when we might be able to qualify for these funds for the our design and build? Is there some urgency on doing that now? If in fact we decide not to go forward with moving the firehouse? I'm a little concerned that it's.
Well,
But next year we have to do it, we may not go forward.
The timing for funding through AIP would have those funds available to us. Technically, they could be available as early as November. More than likely, it's early or late winter next year. To the extent that we don't move forward, the board has already approved the master plan, which includes that component. You know, the next opportunity for you to back away would be when we bring you the contract for development. That's the traditional way that these things happen. So you could probably look for that contract to come to you late fall, winter of this year.
Okay, so I guess what you mentioned was we approved the master plan, and
Right.
at the time we approved the master plan, that was based on our best information at the time. I think it was 2016, and I didn't think that I was authorizing to start proposing specific projects to get it done within that 10-year time frame. I thought they would come to us kind of one at a time, and I'm raising the question right now, is this an appropriate time to do this?
It is from a funding standpoint. You still have the ability to say no. And that's what I was trying to say is we only put forward to you what projects are on that list in sequential order that you've already seen, that you've already approved, and that we've negotiated with the FAA. Those projects individually don't move forward until you give the thumbs up on the contract to begin the work.
Okay, and so just, I don't mean to step on you, but
No, that's okay.
just to keep it moving on this item. If in fact we approve this item and then a grant comes to us, for approval, I guess in November. Is that correct?
Somewhere in
Okay,
that
so-
area, it's a guess.
And we say, well, yeah, sure. What's our time limit for spending that money?
Once you get a grant, you've got 4 years.
4 years. So we don't have to execute the contract right away as soon as we get it.
No, you don't. But then what you do is you jeopardize the funding cycle that has been negotiated with FAA. If you delay, they're not going to give you a second, not going to give you that next grant.
We're not going to get any more grants, or because we delayed.
They will reprogram the funding that you are now saying you don't want right now. They'll reprogram that funding. And when they reprogram, you are not assured that you will get back in line at your proper queue.
For that item or any item.
Every item.
Because I remember Robin talking so much about spend your money, spend your money.
Yep.
And there was a whole long list of airports that didn't
Yeah.
spend their money, and I suspect they weren't ready.
Yeah, they take those funds and they reallocate those to other projects. If you can't spend, you choose not to spend, they take those funds and they.
How quickly do they take the funds and reallocate? 4 years, a year,
No,
6 months?
typically, if you don't accept the grant, or if you say you're not ready to accept the grant, they'll reprogram it that way.
Okay, if we accept the grant, how long do we have to spend the money?
Maximum of 4 years.
Okay, If we don't spend the money in 2 years, are we penalized?
Yes.
Yes, because the next grant, the follow-on grant, would be in jeopardy of that. Because if you're not spending the money that they've already given you, you're not going to be doing it. That's the way that that's the sequencing that's been negotiated.
Okay, and what's the downside if we don't authorize this 6.6 million in this budget?
Well, when we get the grant, have to come back in and amend your CIP. There's a little reason for you not to include it in the CIP because quite simply, Director, you have the ability to stop when you bring in the contract.
Okay,
You're not authorizing us to do the work. The
I
work
understand.
comes
We
through
haven't
the
got
contract.
we're not ready to sign the check yet.
Right.
I'm talking about the planning process and advancing it. And is there a penalty to us if in fact we don't make a grant request to the FAA? I presume that means that we're going to make a 6.6 grant request to the FAA.
Correct.
And then they come back and say, okay, grant request. I'm really asking about delaying the grant request.
Yeah. If you delay the grant request, you put in jeopardy the funding cycle for the balance of the program, which is $81 million. That's what FAA has its program for right now. If you delay that schedule, you are at risk of delaying that $81 million. And I can't tell you when to get back.
Okay, so if we don't approve this today, or I mean, like at the next board meeting, then the whole $81 million can go away. I'm stunned.
No, I didn't say that. Because this is, we have this disconnect here. When you include a project on your CIP, it then gives us the ability to move forward with FAA through the application process to get all the way to the point where we can present you with a contract. When we present you with that contract, you still have the ability to say no. This is not an approval to do the project. It's an approval to do the preparation for the project.
So we have a 5-year capital improvement plan.
Right.
That we have to submit every year and update and add another year. It's a rolling living document. And all of these items have been, the line item of what the improvement is, has been on our capital improvement plan.
That's correct.
And that goes to FAA so that they can look long-term at what they think their total funds are, and then how much of those funds would be allocated to us or our projects in the future.
That's correct.
So if we step out of line and say, oh, not now, we're going to take a break, that money gets allocated to somebody else who had asked for it, who may not have gotten any, or somebody who came up with a project in the interim, or an emergency repair or whatever. And we have been the recipient in the past, since I've been on the board, of a couple $1 million, because at the end, nearing the end of a fiscal year, somebody didn't use their money and FAA was like, you are ready. And I go back to during the Obama period when everything was shovel ready and we were able to get some money that we had not even anticipated or not anticipated at that time. So for me, Bill, it's more of a planning tool right now that it's on there. It tells FAA we're still thinking about it. And it tells our staff they need to be thinking about what their workload is. And it just kind of, it's setting out there. It's, for me, it's part of the plan. And we still have control over it coming into the fall as we look at what we're going to do. Something could change drastically, but the reality of it is our terminal is still too close to the taxiway and to the center of the airfield, right? No matter what. We still haven't fixed
we
that. And that was what started all of this, is to fix the terminal.
Every one of the projects that we talked about in preparation for the terminal building is what's called an enabling project. It allows us to get to the point where we can address this deficiency. We can't address it.
Well, I understand what you're saying, Mary Ann. I'm really big on planning, and this is a planning item. What I heard you say was that when the grant comes back, maybe in November, something like that, you're gonna get busy and go out for bids, you come back with a contract.
Right.
Okay, that's more than planning, that says go. And yeah, I understand that we have the final authority to authorize a contract, but that's more than planning. Because we're committing to the FAA by submitting a grant that we're ready to go on all this. We've already made the decision to go forward on this. All we're waiting for is them to provide the funding and are getting the contracts together. That's more than planning. That's making a commitment in my mind. But
Yeah.
I have to believe what you say. I mean, you're AAA authorized, and all that. But the fact of the matter is I think we're putting the cart before the horse on this ARP thing. And I don't want to get in a position. This is one board member. I don't want to get in a position with the FAA said, well, we made this request and then we changed our mind. Okay, and or we actually take the money and don't complete this is for design, build, and we don't actually complete the project. So that's what I'm concerned about. So I'm done, Mary.
So, Executive Director, I just, to keep it as simple as we can keep it, what I heard you say a minute ago is we are, with this document, we are not approving these projects, correct?
That is correct.
So just, if we can keep that in mind, I mean, this is not, but better to be prepared and have a legitimate document in place seems to be the right thing to do. That's the only comment I have.
Chris, I do have one question for you. With the cost of construction seeming to take giant leaps almost daily, are any of these numbers in jeopardy?
It's always an estimate. The numbers we did revalidate at today's cost as best we could for today. But so this number is valid as of when we looked at it recently.
I was thinking about that when I was looking at all of this last night to refresh my memory. I was thinking, I wonder if we should be increasing any of this just because of what we're seeing. Carl's painting is our painting.
So yes, we did. We revalidated this for current.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Next slide, please. So different but similar to the AIP and PFC program, this is the district-only funded capital projects. The water distribution has been a project that we've been looking at now for a couple years. We are still doing evaluation on it. We anticipate having something to share with the board in the near future on the options for wells, but nothing yet. So this project again is a planning tool. So this is a very good example of a planning tool. It's been approved by the board as a possible project. We've had this on for a couple years, but we are still evaluating, and then we'll bring you the next steps in the near future. Building 505, again, this one was improved in this fiscal year of 21. We've done a portion of it. We can't get it all completed this fiscal year, so we will carry a portion of that project over into fiscal year 22. New projects that we're proposing under our funded capital improvement projects, under district funded projects, would be vehicle replacements. We are asking for for 2 maintenance vehicles. It's been about 4 years since we've purchased any maintenance vehicles. We have 2 vehicles that are aging, requiring more and more maintenance on them to the point that they're costing us more than a replacement vehicle could be. So we're asking for 2 vehicles, 2 trucks. In the future, it's not quite right there yet. The technology is not right there yet, but we are watching and evaluating electric vehicle trucks. But again, they're not quite in production. So in the future, we would like to move our fleet into electric trucks as well. But these 2 right now are not planned to be because they're not available in the assembly. Terminal refresh. As we've talked about with the increase in passenger traffic and loads with 2 Dallas flights and 3 LAX flights, et cetera, the gate 123 area is smaller than the gate 45 area. When the airport many years ago, right before I started, did the terminal improvements, we have what's called gate 1, and it really is just an outside area that was built to be additional space for passenger flow. We'd like to improve that area to use it for passenger flow with some outside seating and some improvements to make that gate less congested, so that it would be an outside flow for the gates 1, 2, 3 area. Also under terminal improvements, again with the increase in passengers is increase in luggage. Our baggage belt in the baggage claim area where passengers pick up their baggage has been very problematic for a number of years, and it's time to do some replacement plates on that. So that it doesn't continually break. So we've nursed it along as far as we think it should be nursed along, and now we think we need to do some replacement on it. So that terminal refresh is a combination of the baggage belt improvements as well as the gate 1 area upgrades to improve our flow and allow for some distancing as well in the gates in the West Hold Room. And the final potential project for this next year is IT upgrades. We have a replacement policy of every 5 years. We do replacements on our technology, and it's time to look at our server. We replaced it 4+ years ago, so we're coming up to our 5th year. And we want to move this over to a cloud-based server migration, as well as keep our on-site just for a couple local programs that will run locally, as well as some other improvements and upgrades to our technology base to make sure that we stay current and stay within cybersecurity parameters as well, because one of the biggest things that can hiccup any system is outdated technology and outdated software especially. So these upgrades allow us to make sure we maintain our safe, cyber-safe, secure requirements, as well as our infrastructure requirements, that everything is working properly. So those are the projects that we propose for our district-only funded capital projects for this next fiscal year. And I'll again answer any questions.
Questions from the directors?
Yeah, I have a question here.
Go ahead, Bill.
And then on the, I saw somewhere that we were going to use outside financing for something here, and I can't find it in my paperwork here. But Tim, if you're still on, I appreciate your help on it. But that water distribution system is nearing $3 million, and how are we going to fund that along with the building 505, which brings us to $3.3 million. How are we funding it? Is there some borrowing anticipated in here?
Well, the water distribution system, currently we're evaluating it with the CFCs because we're looking at trying to get the QTA off of Caliam. That is the first focus of looking at the wells, is how can we get the car wash facility off of Caliam. So that bulk of it is being funded under CFCs. If we choose to move in another direction for district only, then we'll be having another conversation later. But right now, that is our focus, is looking at a way to get the QTA off.
We started collecting the money, didn't we, from our
We did.
real agencies?
We've got just over $900,000 collected already.
So we're collecting about $10 per car or something?
$10 a transaction, yeah.
So, and they agreed to that.
Yep.
That was about a year ago that we agreed on that.
Couple years ago, yeah.
Okay, and I understand that we're collecting from our rental companies. What I see here is an authorization request to spend $2.8 million on water distribution system, and that's for FY22. Where's the other $1.8 million going to come from? Is it coming out of our reserves, our cash reserves, along with the building 505, $350,000? Is that how we're going to fund this, out of our cash reserves, or what?
Well, let me back up on that, if I could, Mr. Sabo. Again, it's a planning tool. And we've had this one on the budget for a couple of years. You're not authorizing us to spend that money. That has to come to you in a contract. We have no contracts to bring forward yet. This was an estimate of what a system could cost to bring over piping to the QTA. But we're still in the evaluation of how to do that and where the water would come from. So you're not authorizing this project. You're authorizing us to plan for the project at the moment, which is what we've been doing. So I think there's a bit of a different, and we don't know, we're not sure what the cost will be yet. So this is an estimate and a planning tool estimate.
Is that true of building 505?
That is part of that. 505 was authorized. So this year you authorized us a contract with GGG Demolition to do the hazmat removal. So that was about $130,000 that we've been authorized to spend already on that project. The next phase is a planning tool, and we will bring a contract to you when we are ready to move on to the next phase on that one. So that is correct. It is just, this is a planning tool document for us.
I guess I've always been kind of confused about the CIP portion of our budget, the extent to which, I'm big on planning. I understand identifying potential things going to happen here. But I think when we approve a budget that includes capital improvement items, I remember you saying, well, the board already approved the budget for this, and now here's the contract signing. We got to go forward on this whole thing. And I'm a little fuzzy on this planning thing before we actually get a contract in our face. So are you going, and do you anticipate in the water distribution system that we are going to be given a contract this year? And if we are given a contract, have you thought about where the money is going to come from to immediately fund that distribution system? That's a big amount of money.
We believe that our next phase on this is to bring to you an analysis that we're doing so that we can understand what options we might have to help alleviate help alleviate the QTA using Caliam water and to reduce our water reduction out of Caliam. So we believe that that's the next step, is to bring an analysis forward, which is what we've been working on.
Just to be clear, I'm not necessarily opposing the water distribution system, right? And I think it has real potential, and I am not necessarily opposing building 505. I'm sensitive to the fact that we're with these projects that we're drawing down our cash reserves by $1 million, and so I'm concerned about that, and that's why I'm asking these questions. We're emerging out of a situation where we've had the worst decline in our air traffic and in our services, our ability to provide services to the public. and we're emerging out of that, the future is not certain. So I'm trying to protect where we have our reserves right now. So you're going to come forward later with more information on at least the water distribution system, if not on carryover. Is that right? The 505 carryover?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Chris, I have a question. Do we know how many acre feet of water is used by the, how many acre feet of potable water is used by the rental cars per year?
We do. I'd have to go back and look. We actually have a
Yeah, it's not-
spreadsheet of how much is allotted to all of our users across the airport district. So we know exactly.
Yeah.
We have, I think we have 9-point-something acre feet allotted to us. We use 3.7. We still have 5.1, somewhere in that range. So we don't even use all of the water that's allotted to us as an airport district, but we do have a spreadsheet on exactly how everything is allocated out.
Yeah, so the reason I bring that up, there's probably a pretty strong chance that we can receive some credits from CalAm when we reduce the amount of potable water that we're buying from CalAm. It's no differently than when you take all the grass out of your backyard and cover it in pebbles. CalAm and the water district have credits for that. Be
Yep.
substantial when we're talking that kind of acre foot usage. So there's this stuff is changing on a day-to-day basis, by the way, and it's inevitable that this is going to have to happen. So
It's at least an acre foot, I believe, that they're using. So of the 3-point-something, they're a third of the water that we use, probably.
yeah, that's a lot of water, and
Significant.
that, I'm telling you, I'm sure that there's going to be some rebate available for that.
Chair Curcio, there are also, I just read yesterday, there are increasingly more and more grants for water projects like this. So and it wouldn't be FAA, it would be a state grant because of the fact that we're reducing our usage in a horrible drought year. So I think that our actual cash outlay will be pretty minimal by the time we get down through this, either through grants or really low interest loan possibilities. So I'm comfortable with this. Again, I think it's a planning tool, it's a placeholder, and I appreciate that the staff is coming forward and explaining it to us and not just going, whoops, we forgot this and we want to do this. So I think it's on our radar. I'm encouraged that we have 900,000 and that we have a lot of car rentals. So our car rentals have stayed stronger than we thought, which is increasing that 900,000 daily.
And if we were to come up with the money, nothing stops us from reimbursing ourselves in the future from future CFCs, right?
That's correct.
Just pause for a second. Wasn't there something somewhere in all this, these slide presentations, there was something about external financing, borrowing money? Do you recall anything like that?
Not sure.
I couldn't hear anything.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we could not hear you.
Something triggered me into believing that there was some consideration of external financing, like borrowing money in order to do these capital projects here. And
I think, Director, what you may be remembering is at one point when early on when we were talking about the water distribution system, we proposed that we could collect the CFCs, use those revenues to support a revenue bond to complete the project in a more timely manner. We're not at that point yet. There's no indication in this budget, no preparation in this budget to issue debt at this point for anything.
okay, so there's no plan to go out and borrow any money or even solicit
Not right now.
bank funding or anything like that.
No, not right now.
That's it. That's all I have for the capital.
Any further questions for Chris on this? Any of this either side of this last page? So Chris, I do have one comment about the vehicle replacement.
Mhm.
There is this stuff is about to break any time now, the electrical,
Mhm.
and as a matter of fact, in the spring of 22, there is a new Ford F-150
Ford.
fully electric,
Yep.
and the base price is $40,000. And
Mhm.
I'm researching it, not for me because I don't want an electric vehicle, but my son does. And it is a really outstanding vehicle. So I don't know if it can be held off until then, but it might be worth the wait.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are continuing to evaluate those. Absolutely.
Okay. Executive Director, what's the next step?
This was an intended discussion. This is a workshop. The next step will be we take any refinements that we take from these discussions. We'll go back to Finance Committee, one quick brush at Finance Committee, and then it will come to the full board for adoption at the next board meeting, which is the third week in June. So I think we've accomplished what we wanted to accomplish today, and that's get everyone up to speed on the budget. And we'll go back to a little bit more refinement, run that through Finance Committee, and we're set to go for the rest of the board.
Okay.
Before we adjourn, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a couple of comments.
I didn't catch that. I'm sorry.
Before we adjourn, I'd like to make a couple of comments on our review here.
So before we do that, we did have a member of the public. Is that member of the public still on the call?
No.
No. Okay. All right, Bill, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. You've been, Mike, you've been kind of keeping track of our cost per employment. Is it fair to say it's around 935, 950, something like that?
Yeah,
For this proposed budget going
for
forward?
this proposed budget,
Yeah,
yeah, it's probably pretty close to that. I'll do that calculation for you. I'm not on that.
well, okay, so, and what is, I did, so I kind of, plus or minus 50 cents here, but how does 950 for cost per employment compare to the others? I went around trying to find that last study and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, it keeps us about mid-pack in the comparables that we've used. So we're about middle of the road, which is a good place to be. We're not the cheapest. We'll never be able to compete with Sonoma. They're $1 something a passenger, but you get what you pay for. You've gone through you've seen their terminal building.
Okay,
Lack
all right.
thereof.
And
We're competitive. I think that's the best way to say it.
I would like to suggest that we take a serious look at increasing our marketing budget by 15% going forward. And I'm talking about true marketing to further assist in recovering some of our local passenger traffic here. And a variety of innovative techniques could be applied, but I think this is a very critical time for us to be recovering our local traffic here. We do a nice job of trying to cooperate with the Visitors Bureau and others to do out-of-town marketing, but I'd like to see us do a very aggressive plan at placing advertising and doing outreach in newsletters or whatever to our local community. I was shocked to find that somebody that is very smart, and they do a lot of Facebook and they do a lot of Instagram, went to Seattle via San Francisco the other day. And they were totally unaware that we flew out of here on Seattle. So that's not an indictment. That just says it's not reaching the Facebook might not be reaching everybody, and we need to outreach them. So I would like to consider the Finance Committee to consider increasing the marketing budget, specifically the marketing budget versus the PR budget. Thank you. I don't have anything further here.
Follow up on that, are we, I know in the past, we've actually paid Facebook money and to target particular and advertise where we send out targeted advertisement to people. Are we doing that for these new flags?
That will be yeah, we are doing some of that. We're going to enhance that experience. When Amanda has the time to do that, she's doing that now. I'm creating that position, creating more content for people. So, yeah, that'll be a strong initiative for us, social media.
Were we contracted with somebody to do that besides Amanda? Somebody through Fiscal?
Yeah, Alex Garcia has been doing some for us on a spot basis when we need it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from board members?
No, so I guess I do have one. So for our regular board meeting, we really didn't make any changes in what was presented today. We didn't ask for any changes or anything big. So we will
I
see.
did.
Oh, what did you ask for?
I asked for the finance committee to consider 15% of my business.
So,
Oh, that will be the one change that will come to finance committee now.
okay.
I didn't hear that. What did Bill say?
Director Sabo is asking for the finance committee to approve a 15% increase in the marketing budget.
We'll build it in, bring it to finance committee. They'll have a recommendation.
Well, I just want the finance committee to consider it.
Well, the way this works is we'll build it into the budget, and then finance committee will give you the recommendation based on what we've shown here.
So, back to my point, at the board meeting, we will not go through all of this. We will have an item that will be approved the budget as presented. And so I'm just saying, this is our last time to ask in-depth questions on anything. So I just want to be clear on that, so that we're not going to spend an hour, or even probably 15 minutes on the budget, because we all understand what we got.
I would like to make a suggestion. Board meeting
Speak up.
presentation. I would like to make a suggestion for the upcoming board meeting. That we have two agenda items, one for the operating budget and one for the capital budget. So that if one or the other is found to be unacceptable to a single board member, you don't have to kill the whole budget.
I will, I'll consult legal counsel and make sure we can do that.
Okay,
I don't know the answer to that, Director, but I'll ask Scott.
all right, thank you.
So
Director Sani.
Since we're looking at things, I'd really like to flesh out public relations a little bit more. And I feel there's a greater need in, with where we're going and what we're looking to do with that. And I'm sorry, I didn't realize that we weren't going to have an opportunity to have some conversations after the presentations too. I know we asked questions during, but along with Chair Sabo's, request for an addition for marketing, I'd like to suggest an addition for public relations and just a review of how we're handling that.
Chair Curcio?
So, yeah, go ahead, Marianne.
Well, I know this is painful, but we have to flesh this out here, or we're going to open up this entire conversation for an hour or two at the board meeting. So I wrote down the numbers. I don't know if you all have the numbers that Tim gave us verbally on marketing and PR when I asked the question while we were on fiscal year 2022 operating expense area percentages. You all want to go to that so we can all finish this conversation since everybody's wanting to add something to it?
It's page 2 of 8 of the detailed financial information.
Tim, you want to put that up?
I can.
Did you say you cannot, Tim?
I'm in process right now.
Okay,
And can you see the screen?
About 2/3 down on the page.
there's marketing, which is what Director Sabo is asking for a 15% increase, right?
Right.
Okay, and then Director Sani, you're asking for an increase on the public relations budget
Yes,
of how much?
or an explanation of what is being done with the $25,000.
Okay, well, maybe we start with that, Mike.
Public relations we use for everything from the gate receptions that we do when we have, in normal times, when we have new air service, that we use public relations for the rodeo, the show. That's principally what, that gives you a flavor of what the public relations budget goes for. Believe,
How about communications with outside firms, PR releases, things of that nature?
we typically use that line item, and we've used in the past, we've used through Chris Chidlaw, her name's escaping me.
Marcy Brock.
Thank you.
So that falls under a different line item then?
No, it falls under public relations.
Okay.
So Lisa, are you saying that that item to you is not, that what we're doing is not adequate, so you would like to see an increase in the dollars?
Yeah, I would like to see more support with public relations. Mike and I have not been able to, I don't think we've really had a conversation about where I know we've had just cursory about it, but that is a request that I do have. Yeah, I think there is more that could be done, and that could really help the airport overall as we embark on some of the things that we're doing currently and in the future.
Right. Right now we have $25,450. If we move that to $30,500, would that be satisfactory?
To me, it's more of a strategy about what we're doing and how we're handling it. But if there's no one else on the board that agrees with that, or, wants to see things done differently, I accept that I'm a single person here.
So I'll chime in. I think part of that's going to be driven by who is hired, and hopefully they have some expertise in this area, that they can give us some guidance on what we should be doing that we're not doing. I don't have any, I'm fine if we say we need to add 5,000 or whatever, but I don't know that I agree with you, Lisa. We're just picking a number and we don't know what we're gonna get for it. So
I'd like to add
I'm
to
not through yet. I'm just taking, I'm gathering my thoughts. I'll be done in a second. So I think that it's important that we look at that, but also that whole budget, I'm guessing, Mike, that you move money between them as needed. If you have money in marketing and you need an extra 3,000 PR at the end of the year and you didn't spend it in marketing.
Yeah, that is not our typical way of doing business, but we have done it before, yes.
So, I don't know, and I'd also like to hear Director Sabo of what he wants to do with that extra, basically $14,000 or 15 in marketing. What do you think we're gonna get for it?
Are you asking me now?
Yeah, now you,
Now I can talk.
Minute.
For a minute. I think I kind of was trying to support Director Sawhney's comments. You know, we're looking at dollars up here, but there isn't any narrative for some very important categories of public relations and marketing. We don't know other than a dollar amount what's going to happen with that money. We can kind of speculate, but we don't have, there is no plan or marketing plan or anything that we have to go for. So while I say marketing needs to be increased by 15%, I'm hopeful that it is applied towards things like newsletters and other things that do outreach with our customer base out here, and that we're trying to either recover or retain. And that's what one of the things I'd like to see, but I don't have anything specifics to say, simply because I don't know what I'm starting from. We did decrease the marketing budget by $5,000 at a time when I think we need to be doing more outreach and talking to our customers even more. So that's why my increase of 15% is kind of a spitball at this thing. I would certainly like to see more dialogue.
Wouldn't that be done in the air service committee?
Yeah, but it's not being done.
which one you just
Do we know
added?
anybody on that committee?
Can't you add it to the agenda? So Mike, in the past, we have at Air Service had a more of a breakdown of the budget and had a discussion at the Air Service committee meeting. That then they agree to what's the money's gonna, the line items. And I'm gonna just say, so much for billboards, so much for, what else do we do? Giants game advertising, so much for this. And more of an idea of what it's gonna be, rather than here's an open checkbook and spend it however you want as you are attracted to something. So I think that's a little surprised that Air Service has a couple $100,000 in a budget and Air Service Committee doesn't know what it's going for.
We cover a few things on that. Happy to articulate a bullet point of how we built that budget, what I anticipate we'll spend it on. Happy to do that. We, on a monthly basis, go through every advertisement that we do. They know where they are shown where that money is spent. So we still do that. So it's not as though the money is being spent and no one knows where it's being spent.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's saying that. I just think what they're asking for, what we're all asking for is just, here's $200,000, X amount is marketing, X amount is PR. What PR is in there, what marketing is in there, and what air service development is in there. Because I think, didn't we just move 60,000 over last month or the month before into,
Couple of months, but when we.
and what was that into,
engaged,
marketing?
that was into marketing to support the Seattle plan.
And that was so that KRML could go to,
No, that was part of, that was part of KRML's effort, was part of, but that was only in some total to maybe $2,500 in expenses for that. We've got the rest, either Alaska provided the airfare, the hotels were comped as a trade out for some advertising at KRML. We've done a lot of, we've done some print, but a lot of television advertising around the Seattle flights. That's where the preponderance of that money has gone so far. Is the television ads that you see. Done some social media in Seattle with Visit Carmel, about a $5 or $6, I think it was a $5,000 investment on our part, and got some great returns from that. Have done some work right around the $3,000 to $4,000 range on radio, both KMRL and KDON. So that's where we expect it. We'll probably maybe around $30,000 into that $60,000 tranche of money.
And you've got 20 some days left. So, I mean, I just,
No, it's a fair question, and I'll be happy to share that.
okay, so going back to that, Director Sabos, do you still want to advocate for a 15% increase in marketing dollars?
I do, and just and what the comments that Mike gave. This isn't just about dollars. It's a strategy, as I think Director Sani mentioned. She hasn't had a chance to talk about the strategy for her increase in PR. She doesn't really understand where the money, what the direction is, what the plan is, and neither do I in marketing. I don't know what the plan is. It's never been written down. It's kind of ad hoc. So I'm advocating for an increase in 15% to provide funding over and above what we've been doing in the past to provide for things like newsletters.
And I support Director Sabo in that effort, because it is kind of unusual that we would be in this particular time when we're planning on gearing everything up to do a reduction in the marketing. All of the other agencies and hospitality related are all spending more, not less. So I don't disagree with either Director Sani or Director Sabo on this. And I would like to see us bump that up so we have a cushion there where we can, at the drop of a hat, get something out sooner rather than later, and have the money there. This is where we're trying to gear up to get back to whatever the new normal is. And it would seem to me that would mean more marketing, not less marketing.
Mike, how much did you verbally commit to Visit Carmel?
For which enterprise?
Well, I thought when we were discussing that we were not wanting to add
name
Carmel
change?
to our name, that you said
Between
I'm
30
proposing-
between $30,000 and $50,000.
between 30 and 50 to Visit Carmel alone, out of 135,000.
It's just out of the marketing budget.
That's out of market.
Okay, so that's like, at least that's a third of the budget gone to one city, basically.
Well, yeah, to one effort.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So-
that effort goes to, there are 6 cities that it would go to, all of them. Most of the ones that we serve nonstop.
Okay, but it's a marketing effort with Visit Carmel, so that would be our partner.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And hopefully the hotels and restaurants that get filled up, because they're gonna match your dollars, are in Carmel, because they don't really care if Salinas gets a guest or not. So I just want to be clear of what we're agreeing to now, because I heard you throw out a number and I thought it was around 50,000.
Yeah, I said 30 to 50.
Okay.
So you're right.
Okay, so I think, Mike, you need an air service development to sit down and talk to them and develop a strategy, or tell them what your strategy is, at least discuss it, so that
Yeah,
we all know it.
that's happy. We started that already in this discussion, so I'm happy to finish that.
Okay, and then Lisa, you want to see a strategy on all of these, don't you?
Yes, and website design, I would add to that as well. And I think I would be, as we've been talking, I think that $5,000 increase would allow for that strategy to be developed and to be shared. And maybe that's the approach to take. But to look at what we do have, what our strengths and our weaknesses are, as well as our threats, as well as opportunities overall for things would be of value, in my opinion.
I don't see a value in a SWOT exercise on that, but if you've got information, if you've got ideas on website design, that's an interesting one, because our website is continually updated. If you think that it's not updated, that's one thing. I don't know that it is prudent for us to redesign the website.
I'm not looking to redesign, so but updates and, you know, how it is updated and things of that nature. I apologize, not overall design at this point.
Okay.
But I do think there's opportunity for some analysis to be done, even strategically with public relations. And we're reaching out greatly to one community in one area in our community. I think there are opportunities in other places as well. And I think we even saw that with the presentation that was given about who flies in and out of our airport a month or two ago.
I am happy to have that conversation.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get us so that we're not going through this whole conversation in another 2 weeks.
I agree.
So if we said $25,000 added to marketing, PR, and air service, and the air service development committee will sit down with the staff and determine how that 25,000 is reapportioned.
Okay, but that's fine.
Just
I think Director Sonny, you were aiming your comments at PR, weren't you? Public relations. Is that correct?
Public relations and marketing. Yeah, I think they're all related.
I think the two categories together.
I'm putting 3 categories that were in the bullet
Well, that's
point.
what you're doing. I just want to make sure that's what she.
Well, I'm adding air service to that because I think that's the 3rd component in there. Is that correct?
Yes.
So it's air service, public relations, and marketing.
Mhm.
In total, it was 150, 160, it was 170, 176.5, I think was the total. Would that be true, Tim, for those 3? For 175?
175 is roughly what I come up with.
Okay, so 175. So we added 25,000 to that in this budget proposal with air service development and Mike to sit down and do a strategy of how that money's being allocated. And it's planned. It's not like you just went $10 over this category, but at least to just take a look at it. So that would make that go to 200,000. Would we all agree on that?
I agree.
If the math. is what you
That's
say it is.
That's your
I'm only
15%.
concerned from Director Sonny's standpoint that if we take this to the Air Services Committee, she's not going to be present to make her contribution on the PR things.
I would hope there'd be a presentation that maybe I could review.
No,
Bring
not
that to the board.
I think the best way to approach this is, Lisa, you and I have a conversation about what your concerns are related to public relations, and I'll carry those forward.
Okay.
I still think there's an opportunity for strategy with all 3 of these things. And I would advocate for greater communication of that strategy.
Okay, but will you agree that that should start at the Air Service Development Committee where they're more in depth every month on it?
Yes, I do agree with that.
So you'll talk to Mike about your ideas and what you want input. The Air Service Development Committee will work with Mike, but right now, we're gonna add $25,000 to that category of marketing, PR, and air service. And 15% of that is the marketing for Director Sable's suggestion, and the others, like 6,000 or something, would be added to PR per your suggestion. And then we're given a $200,000 budget
Yep.
item total. Would everybody agree to that?
Yeah, I think that's great for that.
Okay, then we don't have to bring it back
Yes, please.
to the full board. It'll be in our budget package to approve in the budget presentation, but we're not gonna go through this line by line. Unless Mike just totally bombs out with air service development, and then I guess we'll have an argument at the board meeting.
I haven't shown a propensity to bomb out on air service development, so I'm pretty
So-
confident.
Okay,
So,
are we good
so
with that?
Direct-
Lisa, does that take care of what you're advocating?
I'm good with that. And Mike and I will have a conversation. I'm happy to have that offline with Mike. Thank you.
Thank you. Carl, good.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Again, if we have 25,000, you're gonna decide in those three categories how it's divided. I assume it's just not gonna be an equal percentage, but some sort of planning on how that money's gonna be spent.
Yeah,
And could be best spent.
Well, Bill asked for 15% off of 135,000, so that's gonna be the whole commitment.
Yeah, I want to hear what Director Sawhney's concerns are related to, or ideas are related to public relations, and we'll build around that. I know what Director Sabo's suggestions are, so we'll build around those as well.
So we actually have started this process in air service a couple of months ago, because when Director Sabo came on the air service committee for this year, one of his main concerns was to get more in depth on the marketing side for air service. And we've begun to do that over the last 2 air service meetings. So we will hammer this out.
Soldier on. Okay, so, anyway, sorry, Gary, to kind of take that over, but it seems like
No, that, I appreciate it. That's.
we have to agree coming out of here and then not get into it. And I don't have any problems that we have 2 parts to our budget. And we approve part B, which is the operating, and B, which is capital improvements in case somebody wants to not approve something.
Yeah, let me, as I said, I'll talk with Scott, and make sure we can do that. But if there's no problem with that, it shouldn't be an issue.
So I want to reiterate what Director Leffel has been saying. And if there's any other questions specific to this workshop, we need to have them right now. Because once we get this on our agenda to approve this budget, we are not going to have this discussion again. So if there's anything else, let's talk about it right now. So let's go around one more time, and I'm going to start with Director Miller. Anything else?
I have nothing else.
Director Sabo.
I don't have further questions.
Director Leffel.
I think all of my thoughts have been captured and I'm good.
Okay, Director Sani.
I'm also good. Thank you.
Okay. Housekeeping, do we need any kind of motion on any of this, or it's just discussion right now?
No, this is just discussion. That's why we turned it a workshop.
Okay, very good.
Before you adjourn, Gary, before you adjourn, I'd like to get a sense of the other board, all the board members, of what their approach to these meetings is. Are the majority of us going to do it from home? 4 out of 5 at the board meeting? What's your view? Can you poll us on that?
So the only reason that I'm not in that room, I misunderstood when we got the email. I saw the Zoom link and I thought we were all going to be on Zoom today. So shame on me. But I believe, and I mentioned this early on before everybody was even on the call, doing this half here, half there for the directors is not a good idea. It doesn't work well. And that's why, for instance, MCHA is doing all of their board meetings in person now, not split. And I realize there's no public there. So it's a little different for us. But I'm suggesting that from here forward, all board meetings from the director's perspective will be in person. Does that work for all the
I
directors?
intend to be here.
I'm fine with that, other than my philosophy of never say never, never say always. And there could be opportunity, circumstances where for no other reason you need a quorum and you don't have people available. That in the past, we've done that on the telephone. This is certainly preferred to a telephone, but yes, I'm here and I intend to be here in the future, but
Director Sonny.
It's my intent to attend meetings in person as well. I am currently traveling. That's why I'm on Zoom today. And I will be traveling for our regular board meeting as well. So it is nice to have the option, but I made my plans for the board meeting. I can commit to monthly if needed and work around that. But this was also another meeting that was called. So just food for thought.
Yeah, which is not a problem, Director Sonny, because if I understand correctly, Executive Director Lapierre, for the near future, we are still going to be having the public come in on Zoom. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so then Director Sonny, that's not a problem because there's going to be a link up anyway.
Understand, and I understand I don't need to post anything like we needed to do before.
That's correct.
So Mike would maybe query Scott on this. Going forward, after we get through the governor's order and all that sort of thing, can we interpret the Brown Act to say that if one of us, for some reason, we hurt our foot or something, we want to do it from home, and this is like forever, we can zoom in on the meeting and still be counted as part of the quorum?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I'll confirm all of that with Scott, but that is the current operating philosophy. Is your Zoom attendance is as though you are attending in person.
Oh, good.
So,
Let's not talk about hurt feet.
yeah.
Well, it did occur to me, that you've had some experience with that whole thing.
So
But
Bill, does that answer your question?
better than having to post messages all over the hotel at like,
Yeah.
Bill, does that answer your question? Chair asked.
yeah. So I guess what I got out of what you said, Director Sonny, is your preference is to be here at the meeting unless you're traveling. Is that right? Director
Yes,
Sonny?
I'm sorry, I did a thumbs up. Yes, that is correct.
We can't see you. You look like a ghost. We haven't seen your face this entire time.
I can see it on, okay, I'll work on that if need be.
You gonna work on your face or?
You're
All right, that's enough.
know anybody with an IT background?
Call for a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.